Yo, how's it going everybody? You got Sketch here and welcome back to the channel. On this episode we're checking out the most recent title from developer Qute Corporation, who worked on 2011's Eschatos, which we talked about a little while ago, which is also a prequel to Ginga Force. We're looking at Natsuki Chronicles, developed by Qute Corporation and published by Rising Star Games, releasing in 2019 for the Xbox One and the PS4 and PC in 2021. This horizontal shooter is a changed perspective for Qute, as well as an intuitive shoot 'em up for novice and veteran players. So before we bang on too much, let's check out the story. You take the role of Natsuki Sugiura on their first mission as a member of the Rapid Deployment Force. The planet of 7 Tier is under attack and in the process of a hostile takeover by the Magni Corp in a battle over Septonium energy, a powerful and sought after resource. You'll have to cut through the ranks until getting to the Golem, which is the MSS Corp's most powerful weapon. Training day is over and it's time to go back to the future and save the world. Gameplay wise, you've got a 3D horizontal shoot 'em up where you can choose between the Chronicle mode, which will develop the narrative and splice in dialogue between Natsuki, members of the RDF, and the enemies along 12 stages of sheer chaos. If you want to forego the narrative completely, the arcade mode lets you play through all 9 stages with all gas, no breaks as you make the MSS space junk. Natsuki Chronicles has some interesting gameplay mechanics that work a bit differently than most others we've been covering recently, and brings back a concept that's been updated since Eschatos. Enemies have indicators while they're coming on screen, and now they also have paths of where their bullets will go. This shows bullet trajectory as it's fired, so you can see exactly where it will go, so you can plan accordingly. These are a helpful new addition for players that will help see how various patterns work and how to navigate them. This setting can also be toggled on or off, so you can take your pick as to which system you'd like to use. Your ship also has a rechargeable health and weapon system where at a base you've got 3 hits you can take, with each additional weapon pickup will add a hit point. You can stack up to 7 or so hits, and these will serve a couple purposes. Beyond being health points, these will also be available weapons you can use and stand on business. Getting hit, however, will knock that weapon slot out, similar to Axelay. While you can take a lot of damage and recover, once your arms and hit points are gone, you're smoked. You've got tons of weapons to combine, and you can cook up some insane creations with your arsenal. You've got a main and sub weapon at your disposal, and special weapon you can decimate enemies with too. You get the whole arsenal from Vulcan shots to lasers, and when you've got full stacks of weapons, you can wreck shop. That is until you start taking damage and lose power levels with your weapon systems. This works in a similar fashion to the Darius games, where you can fire both weapons at once, but they will be weaker than fire them independently. The wave beam and homing round combo is disgusting. You can shoot through surfaces while autopilot locking onto pesky enemies that try to surround you. Special attacks are the green icons you pick up, which double as your active shield system. These can orbit your craft or be stationary, and hitting the trigger will activate its offensive mode that has a cooldown meter depending on use. The tracer shield puts in work and is a valuable item if you can get it and keep it. Power-ups also work on a system. If you grab one, it replaces the other in that category, so sometimes avoiding icons will preserve your builds, though at a cost of regaining extra hit points. The scoring is also fairly straightforward along with hidden bonuses. Taking less hits and downing bosses quickly will have you cruising to a S+ ranks in no time, but that will only be after getting served, since enemies throw everything at you over the course of the game. Chaining kills together and wiping full formations will add to score, along with not using continues. It's possible to get an S triple+ ranking, so the sky's the limit, but it will take a bit of practice. Enemies will come on screen quickly, and when ads and majors start rolling in, the game can rapidly get hectic. The jump from easy to normal shows a great increase in enemy movement speed, numbers, and bullet patterns, and these can get disgusting in parts, especially if you aren't using your special attacks, which can often provide some breathing room when you're getting mobbed. Bosses are multi-phase encounters where you'll drain their health bars as they hit different attack patterns where the fastest gun will prevail. The game is certainly challenging and will smoke you like a pack of Newports until you get everything dialed in. It never gets quite to the point of frustration, since you can take a generous amount of damage before losing a stock, but when things start to falter and have to use a continue, while you lose your score, you pick up right where you last went down. Though once you wipe your continues, it's game over and back to the beginning. Playtime does increase your credit limit along with clears and gaining achievements. Graphics wise, Natsuki Chronicles is a horizontal shoot 'em up with 2D and 3D elements, and the combination is much in the same vein as Eschatos. While it doesn't have a lot of the sweeping camera work featured there, you do get a lot of 3D models and environments that are highly detailed. The story mode adds a fairly lengthy set of cutscenes and dialogue detailing the events that parallel this and the events of Ginga Force. You get hand-drawn sprites during the dialogue cutscenes, but everything else is in 3D. The arcade mode skips all of the cutscenes except for the fly-in segments and just gets straight to the action. Environments start out flying through the cityscape of 7 Tier to eventually skimming the upper stratosphere and the areas in between got a lot of variety. You get a little bit of everything from parallax scrolling, layering effects, and some nice scenery from the lush forests, caves, deserts, and lower levels of space. Story mode also adds in training segments where you can pilot one of the golems, and these parts are a nice distraction from the constant carnage. Enemy designs range from very small ships to giant screen-filling crafts. Each ship is highly detailed, many with several moving parts and animations. A few enemies repeat, but there's also new enemies introduced in every section, each more cunning than the last. Your craft also has some fairly sharp detail, even down to the muzzle of your guns flashing as you fire, and shots impacting your ops. The layered explosions look great here, and you'll see plenty of them, especially during boss fights. Some of these bosses are roughly the equivalent of you being the size of a rowboat compared to a battleship. Bosses will throw a ton of bullets and lasers your way, and these will cover all the greatest hits from popcorn bullets to geometric lasers, and more ballistics than Hogan's Heroes. The boss fights stay hectic, and the first couple encounters ease you into things, but once the mechanical walker and the pain diamond get in the mix, it starts serving up that sauce. Bullet patterns with and without trajectory on will flood the screen, and bullets stand out against the environments pretty well here, and don't get lost even when things are going mad on screen. Besides the sheer speed of what's coming at you, most of it is relatively easy to see. Tracer rounds and lasers will tell you for a bit, but those remain visible even in those heated fights. There are multiple endings that vary based on the difficulty it's cleared on, and these are pretty epic looking end sequences too, and I eventually want to go for the higher difficulty settings to see them all. Considering each clear in PlayStation gets you an extra continue, even if you get smoked, you can see how far you can get on attempts for higher difficulty runs. Sound-wise, Natsuki Chronicles absolutely shreds with an excellent soundtrack by Yasuki Yasui and Kazuhiro Kobayashi. The duo lay down a flurry of hammers throughout the game's runtime, and the music is hype from the first to the last stage. Much like Eschatos, the soundtrack rips and fits the action like a glove with tons of high energy jams. The track for the underground level is a stone cold groove among several others in the game. Sound effects are also superb here, with several audio bites for each weapon and a sliding scale of boom depending on the size of your enemy. Shot feedback is proper, and downing enemies has a satisfying crash or a small pop once defeated. Damage feedback is also hard to miss since you hear a loud crash when you get hit, and when your health is in the red, an alarm sounds until you recharge. Depending on if you're playing the story or arcade modes, you get either a lot or a little bit of voice acting and samples. The dialogue in the Chronicles mode is quite extensive and has a pretty fun story with some interesting characters. The voice acting is about on the level of Saturday anime, so it's certainly an entertaining narrative. The arcade mode strikes the dialogue but retains the voice samples when getting upgrades and brief damage reports in-game. All around, the audio is top-notch, having something for everyone here, with in-depth and bite-sized narratives. On the whole, Natsuki Chronicles is a very fun shoot-'em-up that's challenging and intuitive. You've got the full narrative and gameplay if you want the whole package, along with a solid arcade mode that will test your mettle with full loadout customization and an elevated challenge compared to its story mode. The gameplay is addictive, and going for higher scores and seeing each ending is extra incentive to repeat plays. It also provides a good middle ground for novice and advanced players to jump in and play through this ride of a shoot-'em-up that above all else is an awesome experience that keeps you coming back. Natsuki Chronicles, it's an 8.5 out of 10 and comes highly recommended to shoot-'em-up fans and fans of sci-fi action adventure games. This is another solid title from Qute, and it's always exciting to see what they've got coming up next. While they don't release games often, their track record has remained consistent with fun and challenging games. This is available on the Xbox One, PS4, and PC. There's also a physical copy for the PS4 out there, but everything else is digital only. If you're into horizontal shoot-'em-ups, this one is a must play. And I thank you again if you made it this far into the video. If you find these videos helpful, that's awesome. I'm glad you used it as a resource. Check back often, we'll have more reviews and commentaries coming up in the near future. But until then, take it easy and stay safe out there. I'll see you on the next one.